The focus of the word here is 4 letters, beloveds. Pain. P-A-I-N. People find it easier to ignore the pain of dark-skinned black females. They find it very easy to put it in a box, push it away and ignore it and pretend it is not there. Either because we have socially, economically conditioned to be, or because the judiciary system does not favour it, the environmental system does not favour it, the media system does not favour it. People find it far more easier to just not care about it, and that is a major part of this issue and problem for why this particular man is still around today. Because if these were white females or any non-black females, this would be a very different story. Period. Hey guys, it's Moran Raleigh. Hopefully you guys are doing well today. So I know a lot of you have been messaging me about doing a particular review of this whole R. Kelly debacle that has recently been released by Lifetime. They've released multiple episodes in relation where a lot of people have come forward, victims of abuse, journalists, jurors and so forth, in relation to this entire topic of R. Kelly. I wouldn't say being exposed because this has been around for a very, very, very long time, but you know, to have all information to the forefront in the current world that we are living in today. There was no support for the victims. There never really ever is, because people choose not to care because it's easy for them not to care. I thought I would just give a deep psychological analysis in direct relation to what has been going on. Before I dive deep into R. Kelly and the psychological analysis of him, I do want to talk about people around him that have been, you know, hearing the news and that have continued to support him, you know, at the time of the trials and so forth. People are, you know, in the documentary, in the episodes, people were always referring to the duplicity of R. Kelly, but I want to touch into the duplicity of human beings, the duplicity of us when it comes to stories of child abuse, sexual abuse, any form of emotional abuse and so forth. When it comes to abuse, period, especially sexual abuse, we tend to tune off, we tend to navigate away, we tend to ignore, and thus we tend to not care, and some of us continue to give support to the person who has been accused of sexually abusing others. Why? Because we find it easy to, and thus subconsciously or consciously we become enablers of sexual abuse. Because we find it easy to just keep that out of our way, to not support what's going on, to not support the victims. We just tend not to believe them. It's too stressful for us, and therefore it's easy not to care. A fine art of selfishness where we choose not to care. And this duplicity in human beings, you know, if someone fell on the floor, you'd obviously help them. So why wouldn't you help somebody who's coming to you, who's confiding in you about being sexually abused? It's a whole different world, because people tend not to want to get themselves involved in this. They don't want to be stressed by this, and therefore they tend to continue to support the accuser because they also don't believe it. And there's a plethora of different parts that I want to touch on when it comes to this. Not only R. Kelly, not only the duplicity of human beings, and you know, but I also wanted to touch on the degradation of black dark-skinned females, who are obviously the main victims of this entire debacle. Most, if not all, the victims are dark black-skinned females. And you know, that's probably a reason for why this has taken such a long time. There's probably a reason for why R. Kelly has not been acquitted, and a reason for why the lack of concern, the lack of care, because you know, from being socially, subconsciously or consciously conditioned into the environment that we live in, and just in general, people do not care for the feelings, the hurt, the pain, the communication that black females go through more so than anybody else on this planet. They just don't care. It's easier to be ignored, pushed away, put in a box, locked and put away. People just do not care. They just don't. And
he wouldn't let them. That's not me, because I'm going to speak to everybody and anybody and whoever I want to speak to. So when I learned that, I would go out of my way to speak to people just to tick him off.
The brutal, sheer truth, which is why this documentary has taken a while to come about, which is why this particular man has not been acquitted, which is why it was easier for him to pick people even after his trial, even after he was seen as not guilty. He still continued to do it because the judiciary system, the environmental system, the social economic conditioning system does not favour black women more than anybody else. They are at there. Everybody else, of course, not everybody else is pitch perfect, and it doesn't favor everybody in the same exact way. Of course, there's a hierarchy and so forth, but dark-skinned females are at the bottom when it comes to this particular hierarchy, which is why people just don't care. If it was white females, or if it was anybody that was a non-black female, there would be a form of affiliation or a form of affection for these particular victims, or people would be able to reach out to them, or they would have had more coverage in the media system, which is another disadvantage for these particular, for black females. So I feel like people just don't care. That's just, people do not care. They find it easier to push away the feelings, the pain, the communication, and I want to stretch, and I want to just focus on the word pain here. That's a very important word here. People find it easy to ignore the pain of black females, and they can just push it away because they're conditioned to do so. It's a form of conditioning, subconsciously or consciously, where it tailors to white supremacy and so forth. Again, there's so much to talk about with this topic. I want to get into R. Kelly in a minute, but I wanted to just touch on this and really dive deep into this. People find it easier because if these were all white females, child, this will be everywhere. You'll be acquitted. It will be on cases. It will be on all channels. People will be protesting, marching. It'll be a whole different reflection. And you can't say that's not true, or that one's being biased, or that one's just saying that, because we've seen that. Beloveds, we've seen that with Weinstein and so forth. They came out and everything one by one, and there was this massive coverage. We've seen it with everybody else. So why hasn't it happened with R. Kelly? Why has it taken him this long? It's an issue. Even after this particular documentary and case, this man is still free. It's, again, the judicial system does not favour black females. I'm not saying it favours black men, but it most definitely does not favour black females, or let alone anybody else, in terms of people of colour especially, anyhow. But I feel like this is something that I want to touch on first. This is the first hurdle that I wanted to discuss, simply because I do feel like this is a main platform that builds this particular topic as to why this particular man is still not even still alive, but still, a free individual. Because people just don't care about dark-skinned black females, especially in the pain they go through.
Because I'm just like, look, you can't tell me what I can and cannot do. I'm not that girl. I'm not that chick. You can't stifle me. But I didn't know that a bomb was coming.
See it. I think there's such power in an individual. There is so much power in an individual who does not react to somebody else who wants them to react in a negative, emotional, angry manner. If you are able to see that in life, and you are able to sit back, to not be controlled by that other individual, that is where true power lies, where you can just sit back, even if they're in your face, look at them, observe, think, then react in the way that you feel that you need to, so that you are in control in that. I feel like there's so much power in that. I just wanted to say that because I feel like there just massively is. With R. Kelly as this individual, he obviously expressed, or people expressed in the documentary that he said that he was abused himself. And that, he was abused either by his mother or either by different people when he was young. And now here is the clever thing that a lot of people do. And I feel like the clinical psychologist also touched on this in the documentary, is that if individuals who have been abused and continue to abuse others, they tend to use that as a mechanism to mirror the pain of the other individual. Mirror is the key word here. Mirror is the key word, because without that mirror, there is no bridge for communication, there's no bridge for relation between the individual who has been abused and the abuser who's trying to, influence them to do things. They mirror sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists. They do this as well. They mirror an individual in order for that person to relate to them, so that they can create this false negative ideation. And that's what R. Kelly has been doing, especially with that particular girl. She was there with the whole trial and stuff, and he incorporated the system. Now the system is leaked in due to the mirror. A lot of abusers do this, because the more you create a mirror, the more harder it is for an abusive person who's been in it. More harder it is for an abused person to leave a situation. To make sure that the girl says his name is daddy, and that she can't do certain things. She has to like what he likes. Very, very controlling, very, very manipulative. We have seen these tendencies in someone or some people in all of our lives that we've all met. We've all met someone like that. Most definitely. So not only has he created a mirror, not only is he trying to, get to their level to try and relate. Oh, I've been through this too. I understand your pain. I get you. We are the same. etc, etc. That's used as a way to get into you, and then once he's into you, he's got control, he then incorporates a system. You have to call me this, you have to act this way, you can't like this, you have to like this, I will punish you. And then the mechanism to act as a forceful reminder to abuse victims that if they act out again, that punishment is there. And a survival instinct that we all have is that we need to avoid that punishment. In order to avoid that punishment, we have to obey. So I feel like that is in itself another controlling mechanism, which is a deep subset within this particular man's mind, where he realizes and understands that in order to control people, in order to get what he wants from people, he has to control them. In order to control them, how are you going to do that? You're going to mirror your pain to them so that you can pull them in. It's definitely very interesting, most definitely, to say the least. And another reason, we joke about him being, we joke about him urinating on girls. We joke, is anybody joking about Weinstein, child? Ain't nobody joking about him, but we've been joking about R. Kelly for a minute now. Everybody knows about it. I knew about it when I was in primary school. You just know these things. But again, because the victims are dark-skinned black females, degradation is far more higher, and ignorance is far more higher, and ignoring the pain of these victims is far more higher. Therefore, it's easier to just push away, continue to joke, and move on. Because there isn't a form of affection elicited within us when we see dark-skinned black females, in pain. That's just the way I see it. We're just socially conditioned not to, as opposed to if it was a white female or anybody else that wasn't black. That's just the way I see it. Like, you'd be able to just help or want to help, but if it was a dark-skinned black females, we don't tend to do that more so than anybody else. And I just feel like that is just the sheer truth. Is his ex-wife, who became very suicidal, who wanted to leave her life. She came to a point where this particular man took her, that she wanted to jump off the ledge. Even with 3 children, she did not want to live because of the amount of pain this individual had brought, because of 2 keywords: psychological blocks. These psychological blocks, psychological hurdles, whatever you want to call them, psychological walls, mainly blocks, are placed into an abused victim's life, where they find it harder and harder to leave this particular person's life. She found it very hard to leave his life. She just couldn't. A lot of people who are in abuse situations, who end up being in an abusive relationship, doesn't have to be a relationship between a boyfriend and girlfriend. It could be a domestic relationship, could be a sibling relationship, could be a mother and daughter, mother and son, father and son, any form of relationship. If you are the one end up being abused, you either don't see it or you get used to the pain, and these become your psychological blocks where you find it hard to leave an individual and you cannot imagine your life without that individual. That is the most important part. People can't imagine their lives without the individual, as if they've forgotten how they even were prior to that individual, which is why that particular girl incorporated in that system continued on for so long, because she could not imagine her life without him. Because he has ensnared her through mirroring, through these, manipulative techniques, installing psychological blocks, control, punishment, several different techniques where human beings find it very hard to just release themselves from. And when you do, it's empowering, but it takes a long goddamn time for sure. And once again, he then provided no child support. Why? Because no child support is seen as a punishment, a manipulative technique, punishment to say that you have disobeyed me. Now that you have disobeyed me, I will punish you to remind you of what you do not have, or because of the fact that you have disobeyed me. This is why I'm going to punish your life. I'm going to make your life worse because I can. I'm in control. This is what abusive people do. Narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, whatever term or whatever person falls under that damn umbrella, child, they will give you a form of punishment to remind you that you are wrong and that you will suffer the consequences. And R. Kelly thinks he can do that. This individual was obviously abused himself. Now, of course, this is the thing, this is the fine line where people want to have sympathy for abusers. People think, oh, he was abused as well, he was a kid and I feel sorry for him. Damn, that's the pothole that he wants you in to try and manipulate you. Because at the end of the day, there's a fine line and difference between abused victims who understand that what happened to them, they don't want to inflict with anybody else and they seek help, and individuals who are abused become inflicted by it to a whole new level and they want to cause harm to other people, and they already have. And it's so sad. I was actually surprised that Wendy Williams chimed in, because she's so relevant now with her show doing so great. I wouldn't think that she would be, into this, but you kind of forget that she was doing the interviews for her brothers and everything around that time. And even her brothers that were supporting, by the time they're not, the fact that R. Kelly's brothers are in this documentary within itself is volume speaking. Like, the fact that this person isn't acquitted yet is just ridiculous. But I just wanted to do a quick, not really quick, but like, you know, a psychological analysis of the techniques that this particular individual uses to try and ensnare his people, and how hard it is for an abuse victim to leave, and why this really hasn't had that much coverage because of, you know, the shade and skin color of these particular women. People don't care about them as much. The degradation is at a much higher stake. And I just want to, the focus of the word here is 4 letters, beloveds. Pain. P-A-I-N. People find it easier to ignore the pain of dark-skinned black females. They find it very easy to put it in a box, push it away, and ignore it and pretend it is not there. Either because we have socially, economically conditioned to be, or because the judiciary system does not favor it, the environmental system does not favor it, the media system does not favor it. People find it far more easier to just not care about it, and that is a major part of this issue and problem for why this particular man is still around today. Because if these were white females or any non-black females, this would be a very different story. Period. Whew. I can go on and on and on. Do let me know if you guys want me to do a part 2 video of this, because I do have more to touch on, but again, I don't want to make this a very long video because I know most of you don't have time to be watching me all day. So I thought I'd just do a quick video because a lot of people have been asking me about it, and I wanted to just sit, watch it, observe, gather my thoughts, and react to it when I was ready to react to it. So I know this was released a couple of days ago, so I'm just, you know, it's not, this review isn't that late, but I was very interested to, you know, not only to make this video, but I'm very interested to hear your comments below. So please talk about it. I read all comments and I like all comments. I would massively appreciate it if you guys like this. Most definitely follow me on Instagram too, Murad_Morali, and definitely subscribe as well. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys are doing well. And for anyone that this is triggering for, I do apologize. And hopefully, we will all just, you know, surpass hurdles in life that we thought we never could. I just hope that that is this year for you, because child, it has definitely been, 2018 was a year where I could pass hurdles that I thought I could never pass. Period. And maybe I'll make a video on it, maybe I won't, I don't know. But I just feel like it's just interesting, nevertheless. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Please subscribe. I'll definitely appreciate that as well. And definitely follow me on Instagram. And I'll catch you guys soon.